That hive right there with bees in it, you've got over $1,000 tied up in that hive right there. If you had to buy them new.
If I had to buy it, I wouldn't have 27 hives.
Yeah.
I've always done a little carpenter work.
You could build your own.
So I just build all. And if I can see it,
yeah.
All I gotta do is look at it for about 5 minutes, and I can go home and I can make it.
Yeah. All you need is one vise, and then a router. But that hive there without bees is over $1,000 right there, because it's got the. Here's the. I use Plasticell, which is basically a plastic sheet, but it's coated in beeswax so that the bees will take to it and they'll build the comb out.
Someplace else I went to a class, they were talking about a frame with no cells.
You can do that, but you can't spin it out. If you just put a frame in there, they'll build comb on it, but there won't be anything to support it.
You turn your spinner up and you
Oh, you just lose everything. It'll just fly out.
This right here, you spin honey out, and then next year you put it right back in. You don't run the comb.
What, you use the same one again?
Oh, yeah. This is one we spun out, and the bees went in, cleaned it up, and it's ready to fill again with honey, because you can reuse them.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what we do, is we try to save it. Well, you can spin this because it's a hard plastic body, and it will stay in the frame. Now, if you're wanting to make comb with honey and cut it and package it, then you just want to put an empty frame in there, but dip the top of it in beeswax, and then they'll build onto it. And
I tell you what, I'm making it right now. I don't know whether it work or not. I got a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, 14 and a quarter, or 16 and a quarter by 1978. I drilled 12 2 3/4 inch holes in the top of it. We put a ring on a pint jar. Fed in that. And I took beeswax and put in the bottom of that jar, and took me a little bitty piece of comb, stuck in there and let it dry, turned it upside down, put it in there, and I'm gonna go up in there and see if they'll build comb up in it.
oh yeah. Yeah.
And then I'll have my comb honey already in the jar, and then when I take it off, then all I gotta do is finish filling it.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do.
Bees will do a lot of things. Have you seen these?
No,
okay. Here's what a sheet looks like at the beginning, before anything, and that's been dipped with beeswax, and the bees will build it up into comb like that.
This is what you pull out when you harvest, right?
Yes. Yeah, and what you'll do is you break the seal on the honey and put it in a centrifuge and it'll sling the honey out and leave the comb behind. Okay. You just take the frame and put it back in the hive, and they clean it up. Yeah, you use it over and over. Well, the biggest thing, I just got into bees because my son did. And one thing led to another, and he uses the honey to make mead. You familiar with mead? Yeah. And he's getting ready to retire in 5 years from Eli Lilly and Company and set up his own business brewing honey mead and selling it on the market commercially. You won't have a tasting room or have people coming in. You just order through a distributor, or he has a distributor that'll do it for him. So that's his second income after retirement. But bees are a very simple insect, but yet are very ingenious in the way that they handle the hives. The drones are the male bees. They do not have stingers. And their sole purpose is to do nothing but fertilize the queen. And the queen will lay, 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day. Now, that's a lot of eggs, but you got to remember you're getting a turnover too, because the bees that are in there a month from now are going to be dead. So to keep the production of the hive going, that queen's got to work. And that's her sole purpose. The workers will attend to her. They will feed her. They will keep her clean. All she's got to do is lay eggs. Now, queen is good for productivity-wise. 3 years. Yeah. She'll lay it more on 4, but after the 4th year, you're not, the hive will die if you don't get a new queen. Now, this is swarm season, and April and May are usually when they want to swarm. Now, the workers decide to swarm, not the queen, because they need room to fill with honey. If they see that they want to swarm, they'll form a swarm egg or a queen egg cell. And what it is it's just a larva that they take out of a cell and move it into an elongated cell. They will, what we call, feed it with royal jelly. That's for the larva to eat until it hatches. Now they'll cap that, and it's like an incubator. If you get more than one of them in there, you have 2 options. Just let it go, but you're going to have a swarm. In other words, half your hive is going to fly away. So the best thing to do is what we call a split. And that's where you take the old queen and about half the hive and move it to another hive. And then let the queen cell hatch, and that will be the new queen for the hive, what's left behind. If there's more than one in there when they hatch, then it's the fight to the finish, and the fittest of they'll kill each other until there's only one left. So a lot of beekeepers like to harvest all those queen cells that are in the hives and make a new hive, but you got to have frames with brood in it. Brood is the eggs that have been capped that are yet to hatch. So I'm going to show here a video that gives you an idea of what's going on inside the hive, and you'll see the brood. So we'll start this. Now that's your queen right in the middle. She's been marked.
She has only one job to do, and that is to lay eggs. And to say that she excels at her job is an understatement. Queen bee can lay up to 1,500 eggs a day. This is her laying an egg now. She'll stick her abdomen down into the cell, lay an egg at the bottom, and then she'll move on to the next cell. As you can see, all the other bees are attending to her. They're very adamant and surrounding her there. What they do is they take care of her every need. Queen bee doesn't even eat on her own. The other bees will feed her, clean her, remove her waste. Everything that she needs, they'll take care of. They will attend to her.
And she's bigger than the other, as you can see there, she's bigger.
besides ordering one from somebody, I mean, how do the queen bees come about?
They're hatched in a hive. The hive will make them. And you can steal from that hive and put it in a new hive. And when it hatches, she'll start, take her maiden flight, get fertilized, and she'll start laying.
And then it's ready to accept a larva. Then she'll stick her abdomen down in there, get herself positioned just right, stretch out, find the proper positioning, and then she'll lay her egg.
So she doing this like 24 hours a day?
Yeah, during the summer.
First lady is standing on the end.
Yep.
In about 6 hours,
These are newly laid eggs, and it takes about 3 days for the eggs to hatch. Then they become larvae. About 16 days later,
Inside the hive, it's dark. There's not much light.
it is complicated.
the queen can store semen inside her abdomen and use it as necessary to fertilize eggs. When an egg is fertilized,
Now there's your brood. Those are unhatched bees.
See, the queen is laying very well. When a queen doesn't fertilize
So the queen storing that semen,
males
I mean,
make
how long
jobs
can
to make
she store?
For life.
She already has it stored with the
queen
queen.
has a sweet stinger and can sting multiple times, whereas a worker bee or a female can only sting once because of the barb.
So where does
She
she
all
get
the
it?
colors on the back, she said.
Drones,
Well, that's a paint job.
the male bees.
We beekeepers put about a paint and borax so that we can
Yeah,
easily
that's
spot
it.
1,500 eggs a day.
if you're doing an inspection in your hive,
Just from that
make
point.
sure that your queen
Yeah.
is good color. That helps us.
And he dies. He commits suicide.
And get in there and release the queen, giving them time to get used to her. Now this is the method we use to mark our queen. There's other ways to do it, but this is what I do. Got this little device here, and you just kind of gather up the queen in it. It's got a little foam plunger, and you just kind of work the queen up into the top. As you can see, it's hard to tell the queen from the other bees, and that's really what the paint job is all about. Now the bees can smell.
You mashed her?
So they're all little cage here.
Trying to catch her.
Oh, yeah.
And the foam part of the plunger.
It'll pin her there on the top, and then they can put paint on her back to mark her. Yeah.
Hold her in place, but not so hard that you're hurting her. And you kind of release pressure until you get her to where she's centered in one of these holes. It makes it easier to get the paint in the proper location. Then you take a little paint pen and you just dab the paint right on her back. Now, you wouldn't want to use a marker or something like that because that could hurt. But acrylic paints.
And that's on her for life till she dies. You only need to do it once. But it's sure easy to find a queen when she's got that dot on her. Yeah.
And as you can see, they welcome her back with open wings. Now, when the bees grow too large inside their hive, they'll swarm. And half of the hive will leave with the old queen.
Mm-hmm.
And the bees left in the hive will make a new queen. If you find the swarm, and you can locate the queen, then you can capture the queen and transfer them into a new hive. And that's how bees basically repopulate. There she is. So the rest of the bees can sense the queen's pheromone. And though the queen bee doesn't necessarily lead the charge in a swarm, if you capture her and put her in a location, all the bees will come to her. So if you have another box, you can just put her in a queen cage, stick her down in there, and they'll sense her pheromone and stay. Now there's times whenever the queen has problems and isn't healthy, and they'll requeen the hive at that point. This here's a bunch of drone brood, and it basically shows that the queen a channel called White House on Hill. And this gentleman is having a problem with his queen being too aggressive.
Just how I feel, I'm just tapping me. I've got stingers in the glove. I feel like if I didn't have a suit on right now, I would be dead.
Yeah.
It's that intense. It's a little nerve-wracking just to hear the buzzing and feel like they might be in the suit, even though I don't think they are yet. But I'm about halfway through the frames.
Now what he has here is called a hot hive, making it dangerous. One way to fix it is to execute the queen and replace her with a new queen. And that's what he does here. He squishes the queen and then proceeds to try to add a new queen. And you can see when he squished her, the pheromone is on his fingers, so the bees start to really ramp up here. And 3 bees get inside of his suit.
Mm-hmm.
And watch what happens.
Where are you?
I've had them inside my suit, and that's not a fun place to be.
You have them all over your head. Throw it off real quick.
Now what he's about to do here is pull his hood off to get these 3 bees out.
Wrong
This
move.
is just due to inexperience. You should never do this. There's like 1,000 bees trying to save you.
We first start, don't feel bad if this happens, because it does to everybody.
Yeah.
So the whole point of showing you that is to show you how pheromones work and how the bees can sense that the queen has been killed. Now once the queen has died or left the hive, they'll create a new queen. These things that you see here are called queen cups. They'll create these in anticipation of making a queen cell. They'll stick an egg in here and feed it a special jelly called rose jelly. Once the larva gets to a certain size, if you look in there, you can see a little white larva. Right here, I've pried one open, you see a little tiny larva in there. And this one here, I've pried open, there's a pretty good size larva. Once it gets to a certain size, it'll cap this cell off and continue to incubate a brand new queen. Now they'll make several different cells, and a lot of them will hatch at the same time, and then you'll have a fight. Different bees, queen bees, will get together and fight each other to the death because there can be only one. And this right here is what you call royal jelly. It's a white substance, and that's what they feed the queen bee to turn them into a queen bee. Now this right here is what a capped queen cell looks like. And this right here is a queen bee hatching out of a queen cell. Now there'll be multiple queen cells hatching at the same time, and all the queens will fight to the death because there can be only one. They put off this sound. That sound is called piping, and it's what newly hatched queens will do to locate each other in hives and fight. But then it's time for the newly hatched queen to go out on her mating flight, and they will mate in the air, and the male bee will actually die from this. They don't survive it. A male honeybee's genitals will literally explode, causing them to die. Now, the queen bee can mate with multiple male bees, and she can hold up to 6 million sperm.
That's a lot of bees.
And then she returns back to the hive.
That's all about queen bees. There's so much to it. I'm sure I missed something. I mean, you can get into raising queens. It's just endless. The amount of equipment, different specialty items, and but that's the basics of how a queen works, how they are born, how they live their lives, and eventually how they expire, and how you can change queens out occasionally. So if you like this kind of stuff, it'll like it. And stick around because I've got a lot more planned. I've got garden video coming up. I've got a
Now here's another video that I wanted to show you. Basically shows workers as they prepare themselves and go out and get pollen. And California needs them a lot for their almond trees. That's what's there.
Honeybee starts her commute, she's prepping for tools. Because honeybees collect pollen. You knew that. But it's not as simple as you might think. Plants want the bees to carry the pollen away and spread it to other flowers. That's pollination, how plants reproduce. But bees also need to carry lots of it home. Pollen is a protein-packed food for the hive. Luckily, they have the right gear. They're hairy, like tiny flying teddy bears. She's covered in 3 million hairs for trapping pollen. They're even on her eye. Here on her legs, they're shaped into spiky brushes and flat combs. When she lands on a bloom, she really gets in there. Nibbling on the flower's anthers detaches the pollen. Time to pack up her haul. She cleans it off her eyes and antennae with those brushes on her front legs, like windshield wipers. Here it is up close. That leg wipes the pollen right off her eye. Then she moves the pollen from leg to leg, like a conveyor belt. Front to middle to back. The bee does this super fast while she flies from bloom to bloom, moving the pollen into special baskets on her back legs called corbiculae. She bends her leg, using it to squish the pollen into a ball, packing it together with a little saliva and nectar. She can get as many as 160,000 pollen grains into each ball. She's hauling as much as 1/3 of her weight. Back at the hive, meal prep is about to start. But the pollen isn't for making honey. The honey under this wax is made from nectar. They eat it for its sugar. Bees turn pollen into something completely different, bee bread. That's their source of protein. Step 1, find an open spot. Step 2, deposit your goods and pack them neatly. Step 3, let the pollen marinate with a hint of honey. And voila, it's ready. The pantry is stocked, both for adult bees and the babies that are growing in the cells next door. The adults pop in to drop off a special bee bread snack, a little home cooking for the hive's future hardworking flyers. Okay, more bees. We'll keep them coming. Blue orchard bees build nests that look like.
So you can see they're busy all the time. They can talk to each other. They'll send a signal out by the way they flap their wings, or as the queens, you could hear them beeping. One thing is that the hive tries to keep the temperature at, or the bees do, at about 95 degrees. So that means in the winter time, it's a lot harder to do that. So your hive will die off about, 50% anyway, and they'll form a ball around the queen and keep her warm until spring. And they feed off of the pollen bread or honey that's left in the cells, and that's their food to get through the winter. Now, depending upon how much, you don't want to harvest your honey, because if you do, then your bees will die because they don't have enough food for the winter. There are keepers that use sugar patties to feed them in the winter, or pollen patties or something, but it makes them continue to produce food for the queen, and it also gives them food to survive. But you get 20 degrees or lower in the wintertime, that's a lot of heat you got to generate to keep that hive around that queen warm.
If it stays real cold for 3 or 4 days and they can't break that cluster, sometimes they'll starve to death in a cluster and they'll be food 2 inches from them.
Yeah.
Because it's so cold, they won't break that cluster. They've got to keep that queen warm.
Yeah.
And they stay right there and they'll starve themselves to death.
They won't leave the cluster to get food. They'll stay there and die. Keep her warm.
So will any others, once they die, what happens to their bodies, and then will others replace them to keep her warm?
Well, generally speaking, the whole hive dies. It'll just die. Some people do. It keeps them warmer. But the main thing is you've got to have plenty of food in there, even in that situation, for them to survive. Otherwise, because there's no pollen to get during the wintertime. So you have an option of leaving honey behind for them to eat, or pollen patties or sugar patties or something that will give them food to get through the winter. I've fed sugar patties to some of my bees, and it still didn't work. They ate the patties, and it's just the way it happens sometimes. One of the things about having beehives is there's a turnover. You'll always lose some hives. There's nothing you can do to stop it.
And it roughly just almost automatic 50%.
Yeah.
Just about 50% from one year to the next. That's what you want. 50%.
Now, one thing that is a plague to beehives and bees is the farmers. If they're around fields that have pesticides or herbicides have been used to spray them, sometimes it will affect their, what you want to call it, their compass in their head. And they'll, what we call abscond, they'll just take off. They can't find their way back. They fly away and they're gone, and they'll die, because wherever they go, there's no food. So
they leave their hive
mm-hmm.
and find their way home. Is it possible that they would come upon one and be able to move into another hive? Or will the other bees not let them?
They'll fight them off. They'll kill them. Yeah, a hive that's existing will fight off a swarm. Yeah, any intruder, they'll kill them. And I've had that happen to one of my hives, and I had more dead bodies laying on the ground than you did ever see. It's just the way they are. They're very territorial, and they don't like outsiders in.
I had a little 5-frame split last summer out here in the garden, and boy, it was doing so good. I had to pay my attention to it, been out there for a day or two. I was out in the garden, I just went down to the other end, look, something wrong. They just went in and robbed her out. Big Joe, they wouldn't expect nothing but.
Yeah.
The big guy just went in there and just wiped them out.
Yeah.
And that's an Italian for you.
Yeah. There's different species of honeybees. Some are aggressive, some aren't. A lot of times the more aggressive bee is a higher producer of honey, but they can get pretty mean. We had some German bees, we still do, and I was sitting on the back porch with my son having a beer, and the hives are over a football field length away, and they came over and nailed us. They don't like you being around. So we deal basically with the Italian bees. They're a lot more gentle bee. I have at times, of course, once they get used to you, it's like the queen. There's a scent that she has, pheromones or whatever you call it. They smell her, and therefore they know she's in the hive, and they'll cluster around her. But they'll get your scent as well if you're working with. I've seen guys go out, no protective equipment at all, open that hive up, pull frames out, never get stung. Not me.
Like the one picture shows or whatever,
Uh-huh.
with his hood on and he had 3 bees in there. I thought when bees sting you, did they die?
They do.
They did, so
They do.
why was he still getting stung?
Well, they were still flying around for a while, even though their stinger was gone. I've had, had one time I was harvesting a hive, and when I zipped up, see, there's Velcro to keep everything closed right here in this area. And I had one spot that was open. 7 bees got in, and I got stung 7 times. Fortunately, I didn't have an allergic reaction, but my throat swelled up, and it was hard to swallow for a few days. And it's the way it is. So you want to be sure when you're suited up that you're in a place where you know that they cannot get inside your suit, if at all possible.
And when you unsuit the zipper around your thing, be sure they're not, take your glove and raise the collar, because I reached up to undo the zipper, and they're check one.
Yeah, they'll hide on you.
Boom, got it, just cause he was coming under the collar.
Yeah.
Yeah, clean them off before you stick your finger in there.
Yeah.
That's where they got me.
There's different kinds of suits. I have what's called a ventilated suit. As you see, it's been used quite a bit. My wife washed it today just for this. But it's still, it's been used, but it's ventilated so you don't get so hot when you're dealing with a lot of bees. Huh?
What's that cost brand new?
$150. Depends on where you get it.
I just wear a coat.
Yeah, I wear the full thing.
From what my neighbor said about the Germans, I can understand.
Yeah.
Even when you smoke
That'll calm them down some, but if you got an aggressive hive, smoking them won't really. And then I wear the full length glove that comes up clear over the elbow, and that protects your arms from getting stung, and they can't get through these very often. I use a different type. Here's the hood that I use. Is it? And I usually wear a ball cap underneath it so that it will stay open. Yeah. So I've had this suit for 8 years now, and so they hold up. Depends on where you want to buy them. I've done a lot of dealing with Dodont. Have you done any with them? King Bee over in Belmore. Stevie King has a store. He's a little more pricey, but you can get about anything you want there. Yeah. Yeah. And they're all handmade. They make everything. You can even buy honey over there in the 5-gallon pails for, I think he said $500 a pail for 5 gallon of honey. But what it is it's raw honey, and it's a blend of everybody's bees. But I prefer just to get the mason jar and fill them up, and everybody gets some. There's different colors of honey, different flavors of honey, depending upon where the pollen is. Early in the spring, this time of the year, what is it? What is it that has the big plumes on them? The locusts. They love locusts. Yeah, and then you'll get a lighter color honey for that. And then in the fall, before the flowering season is over, they'll hit goldenrod. That's a darker honey. We have a half acre of blackberries, and they love the blackberries, and you can get a hint of flavor of the blackberry in the honey, depending upon whether they get enough of the pollen in it. Ditzler Orchard. There are beekeepers that have hives over there that they pay them to bring their hives over to pollinate the apple trees, the strawberry, everything. Now, they don't stay there all year. Once the flowers are gone, the beekeepers can bring it back and take them home. And you have those commercially will move semi-loads of beehives to California to do the almond trees and stuff like that. And they're crying out there for bees because they don't have enough to pollinate all the trees. But one thing to remember, without a bee, you're going to go hungry. Yep. It's just a matter of ecosystem. Eventually, anything that flowers will no longer yield any kind of crop. Or it may not even flower. It's just a dormant plant. So you need the bees to pollinate. And a worker bee will fly as far as a mile away to find pollen or find water. Now, they will bring water in their mouths back to the hive and drop the droplets, and then they'll fan. The workers will fan with their wings, and that's their air conditioning to keep the hives from overheating. That's how they keep it cool. If you see a hive anywhere that's got a bearded cluster of bees on the outside, they're hot. And so they've gotten out of the hive to cool off. I've done something that I'm going to try this year that's different than I ever have before. I have some medium supers that aren't good anymore, and I've cut the bad top out of it and drilled 1.25-inch holes at an angle, 3 on the side and 2 on each end, and I put it on top of the hive. They're vent holes. Now you have to drill at an angle so that the holes are draining down toward the ground, because otherwise when it rains, the rainwater will get in the hive and drown out your bees. So I'm going to try that this year.
I've got a vent in the back of every one.
Uh-huh.
I put a 1-inch vent back every layer.
In all your supers, you can do it that way too. Uh-huh. You can do that. Yeah.
And in the wintertime,
You plug them off.
I take them off.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's also, I saw an article where they quilt frames for the beehives. And what it does is, winter can be deadly for your bees because the bees are still generating heat. And this cover see the board on the top, and I got a wire cover over it so that the bees can't get out. But I've got a vent on one end so that the air can move. I like these so you don't have to put a brick on the top of it.
I've got Caucasian hive, and I got the lid is something similar to that. you don't have to take them up.
Right.
As the weather starts getting cooler, they'll take propolis and
They'll plug it off.
and they'll leave just enough air to where they'll survive.
Yeah.
They'll plug it up on their own.
Here's some of it right here.
Yeah.
See how it's built on the sides of the frame? That's their kind of glue to glue things together. Propolis.
Doesn't Stevie King or others, don't they sell a different kind of hive that is like octagon and
I've seen them.
I've seen them.
long?
I don't know where he sells horizontal hive.
Are you familiar with those?
I have a horizontal hive,
Oh, you do?
and it will hold 30 deep frame in it.
Do you like it?
No.
Me neither.
It's hard to keep it insulated in the wintertime. But I bought a hive off of him and put it in there, and I'll tell you what, I never saw so much honey in that horizontal. But they absconded in the fall, and so what I do is I just plug the holes up where they enter and harvest the honey at a later time. But at least it keeps the moths and the mice and the stuff out.
So how many hives do you have now?
5. We had 14 last year, so that means we lost 9 through the winter. The average price of a hive with bees is $2,000, or close to, depending on what you buy. But the cluster of bees usually runs about $200. It's usually from a bee dealer or somebody that sells supplies. Stevie King, you can buy bees from him. Yeah. Yeah. I got my hive. I'm waiting for the postal service to say, will you come and get your bees? Because they're coming by mail. So it depends. But the Amish are big with bees. And a lot of times they have their own dealerships where you can buy. 300 hives? Yeah. 300 nukes. That is it's a plastic box that holds 4 frames that is full of bees and a queen that has already been fertilized. And those frames, she's already laying eggs. They aren't making any honey at that point, but she's laying the eggs to increase the population. And, you know, it doesn't take long. At 15 eggs a day, you're going to be getting some bees pretty quick. So, but if you buy a hive where the queen is still in the little box, she has not been fertilized. So she will have to take her maiden flight, which we saw them be bred in the air, and then she can start laying eggs. But that process, you lose about 2 to 3 weeks before, because it takes that long for the eggs to hatch. Right. She could fly off. Yeah, she could. Yeah. She could find a windshield of a car on the way, you know. You just don't know. But the nice thing I like to do, and what we're going to be doing, we like to catch swarms. There's always swarms in April and May, but we split. In other words, we'll let the hive become overpopulated, and they'll want to swarm, so they'll make a queen cell. Then we will take the existing queen that is in that hive and insert her in another empty hive with frames that have bees on it plus eggs, you know, what they call brood. And that will be your new hive. So you can get a second hive by splitting. And that's not to say that in April and May, no matter how much room, there's sometimes they just want to swarm.
Yeah,
So,
they can still.
yeah, so you have to inspect, especially in April and May, inspect your hive to see whether there's queen cells that have been made. Because if there are and they're capped, you better find another home for the existing hive and the existing queen.
It just takes them 16 days to make a queen.
Mm-hmm.
18 days to make a worker.
Yeah.
21 days to make a drone.
Yeah.
Biggest queen in there just takes them 16 days to make a queen.
And the larva is actually just another worker when it starts out.
All the same.
Yeah, they're all the same. All the bees you see out in the yard or on flowers, they're all females. They're all females. But they make an elongated cell that you saw in there on the picture, and they put that larva in there and fill it full of what they call royal jelly. And that feeds that larva until it's ready to hatch.
So you can buy that royal jelly, right? People sell that?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
No. That's produced by the bees. You could take some out and put in another, but the chances are they won't take it. It's to them it's contaminated now and they'll discard it. So we're planning. I bought a hive and my son has 4 hives, so that'll be 5. And we're hoping to have 10 by fall. Now, when you split a hive, depending upon the aggression of the queen and her laying plus the workers, it will depend on whether you get a honey harvest out of that hive for that year. A lot of times you can, but you won't get that much because it takes a while for that hive to build up in population. But if you get it to survive through the winter, you got a free hive. I can't afford to spend $200 every time I turn around to buy another cluster of bees. I've lost over the period of the last 10 years, I've lost 20 hives. That's $4,000. That's a lot of money.
When I got my first one, my brother said, you need to go get you another. I said, why? He said, well, the death loss is about 50%.
Yeah.
He said, this way you got 2. If you lose one of them, you still got bees. You can always split the other one and get your second one back.
Right.
But he said, if you just got one,
and they die, you're done.
You're out of it.
Yeah.
He said, you really need to start with 2. And that way, it'll keep you going. And he is right. But
Well, we're trying to increase the population of our hives simply by splitting and catching swarms. And I'm waiting on you to give me a call. Yeah. It's just, hey, we got bees hanging from a tree limb out here. Do you know anybody that can come and get? I'll be right there. But I won't go in a wall of a house or anything like that. Sorry, I won't do that. So if you're interested, it gives you a little hindsight on what's involved in getting started. I buy all of my frames unassembled. I put them together myself. I buy my supers unassembled, and I put them together myself and paint them. You can paint them about any color of exterior paint that'll hold up to the weather. I had some exterior satin finish white paint just to get rid of. So I painted these supers last week.
you need to keep them a light color. Because if you paint them a dark color, they'll get hotter.
Yeah, it reflects the heat in the summer.
Got 5 hives.
We have 5 right now, with the one coming
And you're in hopes of having 10.
by the end of the year.
Okay, the
Depends on how good they are at producing honey, but generally speaking, I leave it alone and let them eat the honey through the winter. Uh-huh.
But the original hive, you'll get the honey out of.
Yes. Yeah. Depends on the productivity of the bees, but the medium supers there can produce what, 30 to 40 pounds of honey, maybe 60.
Almost 60 if it's one book.
Yeah. Just one of the medium supers will give you 60 pints. Yeah. They're all full of frames, but each one of those medium supers could produce a maximum about 60 pints of honey. Okay. Well, I thank you for showing up. It gives you a little hindsight on what's involved with raising bees. I do it for a hobby. I never make any money off of it. I just give it all away.
It's real interesting. It's been a year. It's real interesting. A lot
Yeah.
of fun. Takes a lot of time. And the more once you get one, and the more you get it, the more enthused you are every time you
It can get addicting.
Yeah.
It can. It really can.
Yeah. I had 2 years ago. I've got 27, and I'm going to split every one of them.
So that's 54. They'll have 50 hives. Yeah. Now you need a lot of area to pollinate. My uncle had 100 hives. He lived up in Cayuga, and he had 50 acres of clover, so that they had plenty of clover through the summer. And then, of course, the goldenrod came on in the fall. But
I moved mine. I keep about 10 or 12 to a place, about 3 or 4 places. That way, when I make a split at this one, I move it to that yard.
Sure.
I split from that yard back to this yard, and that way they don't go back.
Yeah, that's the one thing splitting. That hive that you've taken the queen and some frames out of to make a new hive, you want to move her maybe a mile away for a while. Otherwise, they'll all just come and fly back to the same hive.
Drip Watch is in several, like 20 or 30 states at least, and they have where you can register your hives.
Mine are
online.
registered.
It's called a Bee Safe.
Yeah.
And you can go in and register where your hive is at and pinpoint it on a map so that
They can track.
pesticide applicators, farmers can go in there and see who has beehives around them, and then they can contact you to let you know when they're going to be applying insecticides,
Right.
so that you can maybe cover up your bees for a day or two.
The shoes farm around us.
Yeah.
And they've always come and said, hey, in a couple of days, I'm going to be spraying, but I'm going to wait until the wind is in the right direction so it's not blowing towards your hives.
Right.
So therefore, we don't cover the hives because it's blowing away from them. Yeah.
And then across the road from most of my hives, they don't spray for nothing of what they call that. They raise corn and beans in there, but they don't use no chemical.
Organic.
Organic. And so I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. Well,
it helps my bees because they have a lot of goldenrod grows up in it, and my bees gets a lot of benefit out of it, and they sow it in the fall. Like right now, it's got a lot of mustard in it. It's got a lot of a little stuff of flowers in it, and they're working it like crazy right now. And last year he sowed it in buckwheat.
Yeah.
150 acres of buckwheat, and they were just swarming. It's real dark honey.
I like the taste of it.
Dark, but it's sure got a, yeah, it is.
It's more like a cross between honey and a molasses. Taste to it.
Yeah.
Here's some free books from Purdue Extension. They're normally like $7 plus shipping. You can get into free complex size TVs. You already have some I gave you, right, Phil?
Yeah, you gave me two. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I said it like, since I've had mine, I don't think I've turned the TV on the time. So usually it's something like this I watch, or I find a video on my phone.
Oh, yeah. How long have you been keeping these now?
3 years.
3 years. Sounds like you're big.
My brother's had them in Kentucky for about 30 years.
Oh.
He's tried for 15 years to get me to bring one home, and I wouldn't do it. I said, I ain't got enough time.
Uh-huh.
Let me get retired. So when I got ready to retire, he said, here, take one home. I was down there with my dad, and he was making scripts. He said, here, we made one. I brought it home, and now I've got it. But now you can, it ain't no trouble to get in the bee business if you want to just keep a split and feed them and take care of them. You can get in the bee business quick.
Oh, yes.
You know.
Yeah.